Hello, everybody. Welcome to Maximum Libertarian, the Roanoke Valley Libertarian interview. Today, we've got Jim Ostrowski. He is running for LNC chair this May. It's May 21st through 25th in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So if you're a delegate of the Libertarian Party and you like what you hear today, please come out and vote for Jim and spread his message on your social media. That helps a lot too. So welcome for joining us today. And
thanks for having me.
What we would like to do, we'll start off with the basic question that everybody gets. What motivated you to run for the LNC chair? And what do you see as the single biggest problem for the LP right now?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it relatively brief. So I've been in the libertarian movement since 1979. And like most people, I focus most of my attention on politics because it's a party and the party runs candidates for office, and that's how we function. But over the years, I've noticed both in third party politics and even in being active in the Republican Party for a time, but as a libertarian, and politics is basically a rigged game. And about 15 years ago, I started thinking there's got to be a better way to affect change in this country. So I wrote a short book. It was actually during the Tea Party movement called Direct Citizen Action. It was one of my better selling books over the years. And I've become convinced that direct action is really the better path for the libertarian movement. I don't necessarily want to give up on politics, but I think we have to adopt another strategy. So for a bunch of years, I've been trying to get libertarians to hear this message and act on it. Haven't had great success. So I had the bright ideas of running for chair. I figure if I run for chair, I'm pretty much going to have a captive audience. And I've been correct because I'm in debates and I'm going to state conventions and people are hearing the message. So that's why I decided to run. I think the party needs a new strategy. And as far as the single most important thing, I think it is strategy. I would throw in marketing as well. I think that, to summarize my candidacy in one or two sentences, liberty is the greatest political idea in human history, but we have bad strategy and bad marketing. And if I'm elected, I'll fix both.
What are the three top priorities if you were elected as chair? You said marketing. What are some of the other things that you want to focus on? Well,
I have, as far as direct action, so just to define direct action, because it's a term that people have heard, but they may not really be using it the way I'm using it. So to me, direct action, it doesn't mean like hitting the streets and having a rally. That's actually not direct action. I would call that politics. Direct action is, what are the things that libertarians as individuals can do to move the country towards liberty, as opposed to, and that means doing things themselves, as opposed to politics. Politics is about indirect action. You're voting for somebody else so that somebody else can do something to affect policy. You're hoping, you're going to court, you're lobbying a congressperson, and you're trying to get somebody else to do something. But there's things we can do ourselves to move the country towards liberty. So that's what I call direct action. And the quickest example is voting with your feet. If you live in a high-tax state like California and you vote and you move to New Hampshire, you, with just your own choice, have increased your liberty. But you've also helped move the country towards liberty because, for example, you've taken all that money you used to give to the tax man in California, and now you're giving a lot less money to the tax man in New Hampshire. So the government, the political machine, which feeds off of the government, has less money to make the rest of us suffer. So actually, even if it's just one person moving to New Hampshire, you have actually improved the liberty of the country a very tiny but real percentage. But if a lot of people do that, it's a force multiplier, and it becomes more powerful. So out of that long speech, I picked 5 forms of direct action, which I think are most impactful, and that would be voting with your kids, which means pulling your kids out of government school; voting with your feet, which means moving to freer counties, towns, states; voting with your mind, and by that I refer to, I want to teach economics. We can talk about that in detail. I think the country does not understand economics, and we are dead in the water until we can start teaching economics. So we're not a school, we're a party, but you know what? If I'm chairman, we're going to start teaching economics. Point 4 is voting with your health. I have a really sort of very complicated MAHA program, but the one thing I think that everybody could start with is walking is the best thing you can do for your health. And we could lobby the state legislature all day to free up the system. It's not going to work because they're all bought off. If we could get people doing direct action, which is walking 7,500 steps a day, we can literally cut healthcare costs in half in this country. It's really true. It's amazing. If you look at it, it's true. And then the last one is, and this is something that libertarians have focused on for years, but it is a form of direct action. If you're on a jury, you're actually the decision maker, one of 12 or one of 18 maybe on a grand jury. So we have sort of dropped the ball on jury activism. It's been around the movement, but it's not been highlighted, and I want the party to get directly involved. And we will literally teach people what to do on a grand jury and what to do on a trial jury. So I think those are 5 forms of direct action. I have other specific concrete ideas. And I would say these are, well, we need a strategy conference. And as long as I've been in the movement, I don't recall us ever having an international conference on strategy. In other words, how do we win this thing? We love to talk about policy. That's great. We love to talk about politics. That's great. How do we actually win? And so I have, as a guy who's written 5 books on strategy, I certainly have a bunch of ideas, but I don't want to say I'm the only one with ideas in this movement. And I want to, and maybe even elsewhere in the world, bring all the libertarians together. I like the idea of having it in Nashville, Tennessee. We could talk about why. It's centrally located. If you like to drive, they've got a nice airport. It's a relatively free state, Tennessee is. So that's an idea. And the other sort of concrete idea I have, which is literally concrete, we need a Libertarian Hall of Fame. We need a Libertarian Hall of Fame. And I don't mean some website. I mean a brick and mortar thing. And I want to have it in Philadelphia. I know it's an ambitious project. We can talk about that in more detail. And so those are some of the introductory platform. I put out 19 pages of a platform. I'm an attorney, I'm a writer, so I'm not leaving anything to the imagination. Everything I propose to do is online on Twitter and Facebook, and we can talk about it further.
Now, you said you've been in the movement since 1979.
Yes.
I started in 2010. It seems like a lot of the ideas that the Libertarian Party has is taken by one of the 2 parties, and then they mismanage it, and then it turns into, this isn't exactly what it should have turned into. Example, legalization of marijuana. The Democrats take a hold of it, then they tax it. It becomes this massive the black market grows,
Yep.
I see a lot of the things that we did, that the Libertarian Party, that you were doing before me, and people are now around to it, but they don't know that the Libertarian Party has done it or was behind this push.
Yep.
I know you were talking about marketing. How are we going to get our name out there? Because you showed a chart, I think when you had a debate or the forum on fight night, and I think that's where you showed it. And from 1980 to 2024, I was stunned by how little we had moved in presidential races. It just blew my mind.
We've actually gone backwards. I could talk about that, but I agree with you. Marijuana, I almost long for the days of the black market, because in New York, they cartelized marijuana. It's this big corrupt political thing, and it's pretty expensive. So it's not necessarily going to get rid of the black market. And they also target people. They have targeted people who don't have the right licenses, so they're using it to punish political enemies. So that's really hasn't unfortunately worked out the way that many of us drug legalizers wanted it to work out. But you're right about the presidential race. In 1980, I don't have the chart in front of me, but in 1980 we got about 1% of the vote, and I think we got 6/10, 2/3 of that, or 1/3 of that last time. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. So yeah, we're sort of marching in place, and I use that chart to try to convince people that we need a new strategy, because when I got in the movement when I was a kid, we were actually slightly ahead of where we are now. And then if you look at Ron Paul and Harry Brown, who I knew both. I know Ron Paul; he's still with us. They got they're two of the best candidates we've ever had, and they got about half a point. So, and in contrast, if you look at all the third-party candidates, and this is another one of the charts that people can look at if they locate my 19-page report, the most successful third-party candidate ever was Teddy Roosevelt. And he had a long list of advantages, such as being a war hero, being the president, being famous, being a great speaker, having money, being from a wealthy family, famous author, very smart. He got 27% of the vote. So unless somebody comes up with some brilliant idea, I don't think we're going to be electing presidents very soon. So that's, again, argues for a different strategy, which I call direct action. I've given some examples.
Right. Now, also with my short time in the LP, I've seen a lot of fraction between Mises Caucus, left-wing people. Is there a way that you think you can bridge the two back together? Or because sometimes it seems like we fight, we hobble ourselves, and then
I agree. I think about this a lot. Libertarians love to fight each other. I see it on social media all the time. It's like, I want to focus on the adversary, which is the state, and I want to fight the bad guys. And I don't really want to fight other libertarians. I've always been Big Tent. I've always tried to get along with the various factions that existed at the time. Sometimes some conflict is inevitable where there's a different vision. But we libertarians love to fight each other. It's our favorite sport, and I'm not really interested in that. I came out of the Democratic Party. I was like an actual real world Democrat. I was a player in the Democratic Party. I was just a kid, but I was. And I came into this smaller party, and I'm sick of losing. I want to, if not win elections, I want to start winning issues and affecting things. And again, the reason why I want to have the Libertarian Hall of Fame is there was an original libertarian movement. It just wasn't known by the word libertarian. So the original libertarian movement has a long list of amazing accomplishments, including founding the United States. And does anybody give us credit for it? No. Well, that's why we need a Libertarian Hall of Fame. You put up a Libertarian Hall of Fame and you start putting all these famous people who've done a lot of great things in history in there, and people are going to walk in and say, well, I didn't know that person was a libertarian, and I didn't know that person was a libertarian. I didn't know the First Amendment was a libertarian creation. and many other things. Freedom of movement, free trade, so many things, due process. Now, I'm not saying libertarians invented all these ideas, but we certainly supported them. We put them in the Bill of Rights. We fought for them hard. I give the example of habeas corpus, which is older than the liberty movement. Regardless of how old you think the liberty movement is, habeas corpus was there first. But when Bill Clinton put in a bill to restrict habeas corpus, the only people who cared were the libertarians, because we realized before habeas corpus, the government could just throw you in a dungeon for 3 years and throw away the key. And under habeas corpus, you have a right to a hearing to say, well, I'm being illegally detained, let me out of here. So these are the type of accomplishments that people do not know that we're responsible for. Now, granted, the modern resurgence of the movement hasn't had that many accomplishments, but I'll tell you one thing. Do you know why the draft was ended under Richard Nixon? There was a guy named Martin Anderson who was a libertarian. And he was the prime mover behind that. Nobody knows this. Well, I'm telling you, I don't know if he's going to be in the Libertarian Hall of Fame, but there's going to be a plaque on the wall about that. And in all honesty, the Free State Project is a fabulous idea. But there's not that many great ideas. But something just happened the other day, the release of the Epstein files. And that guy was a libertarian. Now, he's not a member of the Libertarian Party, but Thomas Massie is a libertarian by any definition. So these are the things that we need to highlight. We need a rapid response team. It's one of the ideas I've also put out there. When these Epstein files were released, the Libertarian Party should have issued a statement saying, one of our fellow travelers, one of our heroes, Thomas Massie, deserves congratulations. This is a huge accomplishment for a small L libertarian congressman from Kentucky. So when there's bad things are always happening, and the libertarians should always. See if I can give you another example. About 6 months ago, the United Kingdom was threatening to charge Elon Musk with a crime because he was speaking out on whatever differences he had with their immigration policy. The Libertarian Party should have stepped in there and said, "Wait a second, you can't do this. You can't violate the First Amendment rights of Americans. And by the way, if you continue to do that, our security relationship with you could be terminated under federal law." So there's so many opportunities that we have to highlight our philosophy and our ideas. And those we should have a rapid response team. Every successful political movement has one. We don't appear to have one, and we'll have one if I'm elected chair.
Do you have a team set up that if you were to be elected, that you would be able to start getting things in place such as that? And I know the Hall of Fame would be definitely a bigger thing than 2 years 2 years. But do you have a team ready to roll to start getting things in order?
Well, I have people helping out my campaign, some very smart people, and they may be able to get involved. I would have to. I'd like to meet the staff of the party and utilize their services. And some of frankly, some of the candidates running for chair are good people, and if I happen to win, I think I could definitely work with them. But there's I'm not saying I can't bring in people, but I want to work with the existing organization. We already have a national committee. They're obviously a huge fair. The chairman's not like a dictator. The chairman is just sort of the CEO, but you got to look at the board of directors and seek their support. I'm being very open about my ideas because I don't want to go in there if I win and then people say, "Well, I didn't know you wanted to do this," or "I didn't know you wanted to do that." I want everybody to know what I'm doing. In fact, I'm going to tell people at the convention, if you don't like my ideas, please vote for the other guy, other people, because I don't want to go in there and without the support of the party. So I would work with the existing staff. I would work with the existing national committee, and certainly bring in. I'm willing to bring in other people. I want to talk to people outside the party. I want to grow the party. I want to double the size of the party. I think that if we have ideas that are viable, we can bring in people. So, and I'd be open to, talking to all different factions of the movement, even if I disagree with them on one or two issues. There's always some disagreement in applying libertarian philosophy. It's not like an automatic, formula. So, but I'm willing to work with people. And as far as bringing people together, one of the things that occurred to me, people tend to argue about government policy a lot on certain issues, particularly. But direct action really isn't government policy. It's like, pulling your kids out of government school, getting fit, educating people about juries, educating people about economics. These are all things that I think every faction of the party should agree with. I can't see any faction of the party arguing about whether we should encourage Americans to get healthier by walking 7,500 steps a day. So I think my direct action ideas will actually help bring people together in the party, and we need them because there's so few of us. We can't really. There's always going to be arguments. It's fine. I understand that. I'm not naive, but the country's not doing well. The movement's not doing well. We need to start working together and figure out these issues that libertarians like to argue about, which sometimes, in all honesty, I don't think are the most important issues. To me, the most important issue is the government takes 80% of your income. Now, that's a book I'm going to be publishing. It requires some explanation. So, but I mean, I want to focus on like the government's interference with the daily lives of American citizens. There's other issues too that we can argue about, but I don't understand the lack of concern with we wake up in the morning and we're oppressed by so many laws and regulations that I wanted to do a video in the Buffalo University Law Library. I just wanted to take a video of all the books, and they wouldn't let me. Then I went downtown. I said, I'm a lawyer. I went to the government law library that's run by the courts, and I said, I don't want to take any pictures of any of your customers. I have no interest in that, or the patrons. I want to just take some video of these law books because there's so many law books. You couldn't possibly read them in your lifetime. You couldn't read one row. And yet we have to wake up in the morning and we have to comply with every one of these silly laws and regulations. I'm not talking about murder, rape, and burglary and robbery. I'm talking about inscrutable, complicated stuff that even lawyers. I remember had to read the bankruptcy code a number of years ago for a case, and I said I had no idea what any of it meant. I mean, you can't even. So this is what I want to focus on: is the daily assault of the government on Americans. Now, which faction of the libertarian movement is going to say, no, Jim, don't do that? We want to argue about the fine points of immigration policy. Right. I don't think anybody would. I think we could all get together and say, well, yeah, we're going to argue about a couple issues we've always argued about. But can we all focus on increasing the liberty of American citizens on a daily basis?
I hope you're able to make some inroads because it's very frustrating. As much work as we've put in down here, and when I go to an event, no matter if it's a Pride in the Park or if it's a gun show or wherever, I can always win people over with the ideas, but then it always comes back to, but you can't win. You can't win. And until we get some victories, that's what we got to really, we've been trying to focus, but it's hard, you know, and then it don't help when you have your own party or members in the party telling everybody, don't renew your membership. Let's disenfranchise or whatever. I just don't get it. It's frustrating, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's why
Yeah,
I'm running. I mean, this is my last hurrah in the movement. I'm 68. I'm fit as a fiddle, but you know, I'm not going to be around forever. And I want to take what I've learned over. I've been involved. If you look at some of my flyers, it says Jim has 15 more years experience in politics than the chair of the Republican Party and the chair of the Democratic Party combined, which is true. They have 20. I have 55. So I've been in this game I've been in this game so long that you wouldn't even believe it, because my father was a judge and he ran for office 7 times. And when I was old enough, I started campaigning with him. So I've been doing this stuff since I was a kid. I know where all the bodies are buried. I know all the tricks. I'm a trial lawyer too, so I know that angle. And I just want to bring all the ideas that I've come up with over a lifetime of studying these issues and applying strategic ideas to a party that is kind of dead in the water. I mean, I know I risk being pessimistic, and I'm going to get people depressed, and the PR people say I shouldn't talk this way. But I'm going to be, I'm not going to BS anybody. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Well, sometimes it's like with you need to be told what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And
Right.
That's what I think. I always try to, because I'm like you, when someone comes in, they're like, I would like to start a new affiliate. And I have to say, like, this is what you're going to be facing. And it's like, I want you to start it. It's rewarding, but it's very difficult. So the past chair, Angela McArdle, one of the things that they did was rage against the war machine. They got a lot of blowback, it seemed like. What is your take on working with outside parties or organizations for things such as war, anti-war, or maybe ballot access, things to that nature? What's your thought process there?
Well, in general, I'm for it. It's got to be done smartly. I can't endorse everything that's been done. The rage against the war, I had a generally favorable view of that, but I wasn't on the inside. I will say, as the New York libertarian lawyer on ballot access cases, we joined forces with the Green Party, and I got along with those people very well for like 3 years. Unfortunately, we lost all the way into the Supreme Court. But I'm in favor of it, of coalitions. We have to work with other people. I want to work with Massey. I plan to meet him. I don't know him personally. I plan to meet him and say, how can we work with you? I know there might be something in the bylaws that I have to look at to make sure that, certainly, as a lawyer, I'm not going to violate our bylaws. But I have a specific idea, which is I want to form a national sort of school exit program. And I know they have a lot of controversy now, but I want to work with TPUSA, assuming they're still there in May with all the stuff that's happening, but and also Moms for Liberty. They're not groups that are closely associated with the Libertarian Party, but I want to meet with them and say, look, why don't we work together on this? You need us and we need you. And yes, so I'm a coalition builder. I'm a consensus guy. I'm a pragmatist on strategy. I know that will sound like scary to some people. I've listened to a few podcasts, they may use the word pragmatist differently from the way I do. But you could be hardcore on principle and be practical when it comes to politics, as long as you're not selling out your soul, as long as you're moving towards liberty, as long as you're not adding, like, we're going to get rid of a program, we're going to add a program. That's one of the things that bothers me about Trump. He's constantly adding stuff. It's like, can we just subtract? As long as you're subtracting from big government, I don't see any problem working with virtually anybody.
That sounds good. What role should the National Party play in supporting state and local affiliates, and how would you increase resources flowing to them? One thing that's big is CRM, Soho, because I know I'm the 6th district chair here in Virginia, one of the biggest things I've had since being the chair, I'm like, hey, can I get a list of our members in the area, or even lapsed members? I'll call them, send them letters. I've never been able to get an updated letter. Can you give us, so what do you think about that? If I need to repeat that question.
Well, let me tell you, let me answer this way, because there was originally a vacancy for chair of the LP a number of months ago. And I tried to contact the National Party and nobody ever got back to me. And I got on the conference call and I don't think anybody even knew I was there. So I don't really want to criticize people, but you know, there's going to be communication. I think a human being should answer the phone at the National Party. I don't get this like leaving a message and not knowing who got the message. I mean, I'll answer the phone myself if I have to. I think we need a human being to answer the phone. And the request that you made of the National Party should have been complied with immediately. And as far as how to increase resources, again, we've got to become a player. Some of these ideas, like national school exit, the Walk for Liberty, these will hopefully put us on the map, and we will bring in people. There's a lot of, we found out from, the political people said a lot of libertarians voted for Trump. There's a lot of small L libertarians out there who aren't in the party because they don't feel the party's effective. Well, I'm going to try to make the party effective very quickly, very high profile, in your face. And I want to double or triple the number of members. We'll have more money. We'll have more money to send to the states. But we just can't keep doing, if you want the same strategy that we've had for 50 years, vote for one of the other people, please, because I got other things to do with my life. I got 7 unwritten books. I have 13 books on Amazon. I've got 7 unwritten book projects that I could be working on, or many other things, taking a walk in the park. So I got a lot of ideas that will immediately change strategy and get people excited and winning again. I mean, libertarians, in my view, if you read my book, Progressivism, a Primer, we created the modern world. Our ideological ancestors were winners, like big time winners in the rough and tumble game of politics and war sometimes. We got to get that winning vibe back. And, we become like a chess club. That's an old expression from the Howard Stern days when I tried to run for governor and Howard Stern came in. It's a classic example of how the party shoots itself in the foot. But the one guy said, sorry to interrupt your chess club meeting. And I'm sort of stealing that line. We've got to become, I love chess as much as anybody. Like most libertarians, I love chess. I'm not as good as Tom Woods. Apparently, he's a very good chess player. But I like to play. So, but, we got to start winning again. We got to start impacting society. We've had some rough times. We've the Charlie Kirk assassination, and a church school shooting, a woman stabbed in the subway, and people just sat there and watched. We got big problems. Like, one of the things that irritates some of my Facebook friends is they say, Jim, you don't have any patience. Things take time. It's like, patience. Like, this country's been declining since 1974. If you study Austrian economics, I think that's pretty clear. And if you just have your eyes open, it's pretty clear. I have no patience left. So one of the things I will bring to the chair office if I win is a sense of urgency. I'm going to hit the ground running and really immediately start moving on a number of fronts to make things happen, to get people excited, to create publicity. I'm a political consultant, one of the hats I wear. I always cringe when I hear people complain about, we don't get enough, complaining that the press doesn't cover us. It's like, no, that's not how the world works. I had my first press conference when I was 19. I called for the resignation. I called for the governor to remove the Board of Elections commissioner because he wasn't allowing us to observe the votes. And you know what? that was a pretty good idea, and the press showed up for a 19-year-old. You create your own publicity. You create your. I had an event once, an Irish wake for the political class. We put the photos of all the local politicians who were running for office in a big casket and had a big old Irish style wake party, and the press showed up because it was just a fun idea. So, you got to create your own press, and we will do that with the rapid response team.
I talked to Spike Cohen because when I agree you have to create your own press, but I know because I told him, I said, when I go to work, I can turn on the television. I would see video commercials and the infomercials about sex pills, Adam and Eve sex toys, blah, blah, and I said, the libertarians should buy ads, and that's what we should be like. Ross Perot forced his way onto the debate stage. I remember back in '92 because I was a senior in high school. I couldn't vote, but I remember just watching his infomercials, if you will. And I know that takes a lot of money, but I think that's what we've got to do, because I know when I was listening to Larry Sharp speak one time, who I think he's an outstanding libertarian. I remember him saying it's a payola. You got to pay to. They don't talk about you because we're not buying television ads and things of that nature. And I kind of agree with that. I think we need to have an idea of somehow to force our way into the marketplace. Yeah.
Well, that stuff is expensive, but again, the Libertarian Hall of Fame. That's an idea that, let's face it. You need people with money to fund that. And that'll get us and it's not that people will not fund ideas. They won't fund bad ideas. So if we get some people in and put this Libertarian Hall of Fame together, that implies that we've already talked to 10 or 15 people with some dough. And if we execute that idea, then we can talk to them about other things, TV ads and other things that were not quite as expensive as building a museum. So, yeah, and I've been in the room. I've been in the room with billionaires. I've been in the room with centimillionaires. I can speak their language, and I don't mind asking them for money if it's for a good cause. If it's for an idea that I'm positive about, which includes the Libertarian Hall of Fame. We have it in Philadelphia. Why don't we have a Libertarian Hall of Fame in the whole world? We have a Hall of Fame for everything. I was just in Cleveland. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We don't have a Libertarian Hall. For the people who created the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights and freed, Wilberforce, I think, from England, should have at least a plaque. Again, I don't know if he could be a full member. I don't know if he was a hardcore libertarian, but the guy who put the bill into Parliament to get rid of the slave trade in the United Kingdom, which at that time was a gigantic country with all the colonies. Why isn't anybody recognizing them? Maybe the youth group that fought against Hitler, that paid with their lives. Somebody should remember these heroes of liberty. They might not have been all Austrian economists or libertarian philosophers, but they were out in the streets fighting for liberty, and some of those people should be recognized in one way, shape, or form. So that's a good way, I think, to get the conversation started, because politics is a rich man's sport. So
absolutely.
I don't know how many rich donors give the Libertarian Party. I suspect not that many.
Well, a lot of times when you ask for donations, if I'm going to give, as long as I can see where my money's going, and it's just not going down hey, donate to this call, and I don't ever see any results. And that's why if you have a television commercial, or if you have the Hall of Fame, or whatever it might be, you would see, okay, that's where my money is going. It's like when I donate to St. Jude's, I know it's going down there to the kids with cancer and the hospital and things of that nature. Right. So in turn, I say, okay, I'll give it. I'll give you some money. What specific policies or platform planks would you advocate for strengthening or changing at the 2026 National Convention?
Well, I don't have a huge problem with the platform. I did see in there that the party's restricted in fusion party endorsements or endorsing other parties. I think that has to change. I'm not one of these people who will just, I'm not a big fan of the Republican Party. If you want to ask AI what I think about Republican Party, they'll give you all sorts of juicy quotes. But when you get somebody like Massey, we should be supporting him. If people disagree with me, fine. Maybe Rand Paul. People of that, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, that don't be fooled by the accent. She was the second or third ranking libertarian voting congressperson. Not that there's anything wrong with the Georgia accent, but you'd be tempted to think she was sort of a Southern conservative. Well, she was a Southern libertarian is what she was, according to the stats, and I'm a big stat guy. So I think we should be a little bit more flexible. I would like the platform to say, lest there be any doubt, that direct citizen action is one of our strategies. So people won't be able to say, well, we're a political party. Well, it's what I've said before in the debates. The Democratic Party is in the election business. The Republican Party is in the election business. The Libertarian Party is in the liberty business. Anything that's legal and peaceful and nonviolent that produces liberty, that's what we should be doing. And direct action, I don't see any reason why the Libertarian Party shouldn't explicitly say we're adding direct action to our toolbox.
I saw on your Facebook page a couple days ago, you put the freest spots in America, or and I looked on Virginia, and I'm 3 hours away from the freest spot. Do you like the idea? I assume you like the idea of just like picking up and moving to that area of the state, or do you think do you like the idea of doing the New Hampshire thing and everyone going up there for free, the Free State Project?
Well, I love the Free State Project. I love New Hampshire, and I've been up there many times. I spoke at Pork Fest 3 years in a row. I spoke at Liberty Forum last year. But I'm running for national chair. So I'd like to take the concept, and they may disagree with me, and I understand their logic, because all resources are scarce. But not everybody is going to move to New Hampshire or can move to New Hampshire. So I think we need to, I actually put this in my program. I've designed an app to rank every county in the United States. Now, I haven't done that app because it takes a few bucks, and really more than that, just time. And I've been sort of busy with my law practice in recent months. That will change if I'm elected, because I'm making arrangements to free up my time. But if I'm elected, I want the Libertarian Party to work with me on getting this app out, and then we can encourage people. I'm not saying everybody in the country's got to leave their, ancient homeland or hometown, their relatives and their family and their jobs and everything. But there's a certain amount of Americans are always on the move anyway. So there's 5 or 10% of the people are always sort of moving or thinking about moving. And if you're thinking about moving, we should convince people to factor in this app, this Liberty app, ranking counties. And then if you can't leave your state, what I did, I just threw my algorithm really quickly into Grok, and Grok actually disagreed with me on a couple points, but I just did it to illustrate. So every state, let's say you can't leave your state. Every state has a freest town, or maybe 5 free towns, or the freest county. And you might want to consider moving there. Sometimes you can move, like a number of years ago, we moved into the city of Buffalo, which you would think it's a Democratic city. You would think that it's the high tax. It's actually not. And we actually voted with our feet, because we didn't use the government schools anyway. We used the Catholic schools. And Buffalo actually has the lowest property taxes in Erie County, which is our county. So it doesn't necessarily, if we moved across the street, we would have been paying higher school taxes for the next like 27 years, because that's how long we've been here. So I want to use this voting with your feet concept. I want to apply it to everybody and allow people to move within their state, within their county, or just across country if they say I'm sick of this stuff. And obviously New Hampshire is a perfect place to go, and I would encourage people to consider New Hampshire. But there's other spots too that people I think will end up considering. And we just can't have liberty. I understand the New Hampshire people. I understand how they think, and I see their point. But we got to, if this country is going to have a future, we have to have a number of islands of liberty. That's my view, and that's what I'm going to push for.
Okay. Can you tell us about past roles that you've held, if it's like a chair of an affiliate?
Yeah.
That you can apply to leading the national committee?
Well, I was chair of the Erie County. Erie County is about the 5th largest county in New York. It's where Buffalo is. So I was chair of a large county committee twice, when I was in college, and then back when I was in the 90s, when I was a young lawyer. And we were very active. Every organization, I've run two or helped to run 2 bar association committees. I started a small think tank in Buffalo called Free Buffalo, which turned into Free New York. I can assure you, and we could talk more at length, in the future. And I am planning to get down to the Virginia convention as well. But every organization I've ever been involved with has been extremely active. We used to have meetings. I remember I just found, I went through all my old files recently because we just sold our house. And I found a note that Ralph Rako, the historian, spoke at our Libertarian County meeting. Now, he happened to be in Buffalo, but still, it's quite a coup to get a famous historian of that nature to speak at our meeting. We brought in Thomas Zoss to Buffalo, the great famous psychiatrist, to speak on, excuse me, liberty and psychiatry. So all these organizations were super active. The Free New York think tank produced, I think, like 20 policy studies. So I'm a hard charger. I hit the ground running when I am in an organization. I was on the state committee. I tried to run for governor in '94, but frankly, I think we had some outside influence in the party, and Howard Stern ended up getting nominated, but he dropped out, as I predicted he would do. So I've been in and around the party a long time. I've been the lawyer for I was the lawyer for the Libertarian Party for a number of years, both as like the staff lawyer, but also being the head litigator of a team of lawyers. Unfortunately, we're not able to win because, well, election laws, this politics is rigged. I mean, it's you're in the government courts, and the Larry Sharpe got on the ballot, and then they changed the rules after the fact, and we still were not able to prevail. So I have actually in that 19-page document, I have 3 resumes. I have a lawyer's resume. I think I've litigated 8 of the 10 Bill of Rights as a lawyer. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I have 2 books on the Second Amendment that are on Amazon. I also have a policy resume. I think I've written about 40 policy studies in my life. And I also have a political resume because I run for office in the Democratic Party, almost was elected at age 20. I've been a consultant. I've been a campaign manager. I've written TV commercials that were actually produced and run on TV. So I've done it all in politics for 55 years. So if you want, I'm not going to run on my resume. I'm running on my platform. But if you want somebody who's been around politics, I don't think anybody's been around as much as I have, in all honesty.
Do you have metrics that you're going to be using to see? So like your first year, do you already got in your head, like, all right, we're on the right track?
I'm not so much metrics, but I do love statistics, but more, and we will use them to evaluate, but more just have these 14 different ideas I want them all in progress or up and running, certainly within 6 months. The school exit program, the Walk for Liberty. I think the Walk for Liberty is. I started walking about 5 years ago for weight loss, and then more recently because for health related issues, and it's just fabulous. And I think we can turn this into a pop culture thing. There's a lot of walkers out there, but not, we got to up that percentage. And while people are walking, they can actually talk to their neighbors because we don't talk to each other anymore. We're on the phones all the time. And guess what? Libertarians are going to talk to their neighbors about other liberty ideas. So I want tangible progress on all these fronts. I will talk to some money people. And if we could get a $1 million towards the Libertarian Hall of Fame, we'll start putting plans together and looking at possible real estate. It's going to cost more than $1 million. But again, the money's out there. I mean, I put this number out there and people are astonished. I figure with me and Grok AI, we figured out there's about $500 million spent in the libertarian movement every year. 500 million. The money's out there. And I don't know what we're getting for all this money, in all honesty. I mean, I have certain institutions that I think are great. I'm affiliated with the Mises Institute. But a lot of this money is I think it's going down the rat hole. So the money's there if there's good ideas.
Do you have a plan to attract younger younger members, new members?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Specifically, yes. I have a theory that, by about age 30, the brain hardens into concrete. So I will definitely try to reach out to one of my books that I wrote, Progressivism, a Primer. I kind of wrote it for a high school graduate. So definitely thinking about how to attract young people. But one of the things we can do, I'm writing this book about the affordability crisis, which is all the young people are talking about. I'm going to explain to them the affordability crisis is the cost of government. That's what it is. It's not greedy billionaires. Billionaires didn't get greedier in recent years. They've always been greedy, whatever that means. Government got bigger. In 1900, government, according to my calculations, was about 10% total regulatory tax inflation bite. Now it's 80. I know that number is hard to believe, and that's why I said, I better write a book about it because nobody believes the number. I'm going to write the book, and I think people will believe it. So I think that book will actually help bring in young people to the movement. But specifically, though, one of the things I want, we need a special marketing committee. I don't even know, in all honesty, what the logo of the Libertarian Party is. I've seen about 5 of them, and frankly, I don't like any of them. I think we need a new logo. And one of the things the logo committee should focus on is what logo will attract young people, because without young people, we have no future. So yes, I'm very focused on bringing in younger people into our movement.
Sounds good, because I'm 50 and I know that's not old, but let's be honest, I've got more years back that way than this way, and I know that. And I want to make sure that if something happens to me, I want to make sure that it continues on here in Roanoke and in the state of Virginia,
Yeah. So, even though I'm 68, I have 2 kids in their 20s. So my ears are close to the ground. I hear what's happening out there. I hear the concern, the distress, the depression even of many young people today. So I'm very attuned to the problems of young people, and I'm very concerned about how to figure out how to reach them.
If elected, what's one bold, immediate action you'll take as LNC chair to signal a new direction for the party?
The school exit project.
School exit project.
If we don't, that was the fatal flaw in the American Republic. It started in 1852 in Massachusetts, and joining forces, inviting all the other groups that say they're concerned, I'm not saying they're not, about educational freedom, to join that project and encourage people to withdraw their kids from the schools. I wrote a book called "Government Schools Are Bad for Your Kids," so I feel very strongly about that issue.
When you write books, you said you've got 7 on.
I got 13 on Amazon. I got about 7 more in various stages of development.
So do you work like go to this book, write a little bit, go to this book, write a little bit, or do you focus on one book and then just have these? All right, here's my side. These are the next ones that I'll be doing.
Sometimes I'll pick a book that's more timely, or I'll pick a book that's shorter. So I think the affordability book is very timely, and I'm using AI to write it. I'm going to be very upfront about that. Actually, AI is not going to write the book at all, but AI is going to help me crunch the numbers. And so I figured this is the type of book I couldn't do myself without a huge budget. But now with artificial intelligence, I said, let's get this thing out. And I think it will go well with the chair race, hoping to have it out on April 15th. So it's kind of like I normally focus on one project, not like 3 or 4, because I think that's the best way to work.
So if the one book, what would you tell if you told everybody this is the book to buy of mine? Which one is it that you've got out right now?
Well, my 2 best books are Progressivism, a Primer, and Exposing the 2 Big Lies of the Gun Control Movement. So if you're concerned with guns and the right to bear arms, that I think is my best book. But if you want an overall history of the libertarian movement, where we stand in history, what is our opposing ideology, which is Woodrow Wilson progressivism, and what is progressivism? Because we don't seem to have a clear notion of what it is. Well, I picked it apart, and I have an 8-part definition of progressivism in the book. So believe me, you will understand what progressivism is. A friend of mine said, after I read your book, I could not watch the news the same way. So I think that's my best overall book.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, talking about some of the ideas that you have. It was a treat. And you said you're coming down here in Virginia, February 28th?
Yeah, it's on my calendar. I don't know the date, but
excellent.
It's on my calendar.
I look forward to meeting.
Yeah.
Where's the best place for people to find you?
I hang out on Facebook. It's kind of my notebook as a writer. And then I post stuff on Twitter and TikTok as well. So any of those 3, you can find me and all my ideas for running for chair. And I think if you go to Facebook, you can click on, there might be a glitch on it, but that 19-page report. But basically everything I do is on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, I saw the 19 pages. It was pinned on your Facebook page. So,
yeah.
Okay, so the best place is Facebook, X, and TikTok.
Jim Ostrowski on Twitter. Very easy to find.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being
Thanks
with us.
Been a lot of fun.
We will talk to you later. Everyone, see you later. Follow this man. He's doing good things. Until next time, I'm Brian. That's Jim. We will see you later. Goodbye.